How can you have it all without doing anything? How can you achieve everything you desire without grinding every single day? It might sound absurd, maybe even infuriating to some, because most people are taught that in order to get results, you have to work hard, hustle nonstop, and always stay busy. But there's another perspective, a different way of living, one based on a simple principle. Do as little as necessary, but get as much as possible. Not because you're avoiding responsibility, but because you act at the right time, on the right things, and stop wasting energy on what doesn't matter. To most people, this sounds like laziness, but in reality, it could be the most effective path to freedom, success, and happiness, if approached correctly. And this entire journey begins with one simple yet life-changing question. How can I do nothing and still have everything? As you begin the journey of manifestation, you'll start to notice that there are three different models people operate from. The first is the have model, where people take on the role of the victim and say things like, I can't have that because I wasn't born into a rich family. I don't have anyone to help me. Others are lucky. They were born with money, good health, or support. This mindset focuses solely on what you have or don't have, and it places all power in external circumstances. The belief system here is built on lack, and as a result, it leads to a constant feeling of helplessness. The second is the do model, where people take ownership and say, I'll do whatever it takes to get what I want. There's energy, there's effort, there's movement. But even this model has its limits. You can be taking massive action, yet still feel like you're constantly fighting uphill, swinging wildly with little result. The truth is, energy is not unlimited, and waste is the real enemy. To get from point A to point B, instead of wandering in circles and burning out, you need to find the most efficient, direct route. This is when the mindset begins to shift. Instead of doing more, start doing smarter. Instead of constant motion, build systems, lean, intelligent systems. Even when it comes to physical training, this shift in approach can make a huge difference. Here's a powerful real-life example of doing less, but doing it better. It starts with a coach in his 60s, someone who's been training in a completely unconventional way for over 40 years. When athletes, even celebrities, come to train with him, they're often shocked. He doesn't make them run for hours or sweat endlessly on a treadmill. Instead, just 20 minutes of high-intensity training a day, and they still feel strong, energized, and in shape. It's a training method that goes against the norm, but it works exceptionally well. Once you understand this, you begin to see life differently. You start optimizing everything, your work, your routines, even how you exercise. No more struggling with every little task. Just identify what truly matters and focus your energy right there. So, what happens when you move beyond the doing model into the highest level, the being model? At this point, you're no longer focused on unnecessary action. Instead, you begin to ask, if I want to live this kind of life, who do I need to become? You shift the question from, what do I need to do to get this, to, who do I need to be to truly deserve this kind of life? Whether it's the dream home, the car, the relationship, or the family, the deeper question becomes, who do I need to be for the world around me to reflect the person I truly am? That question opens an entirely new path. It's no longer about a checklist of actions. It's about tuning inward, Because the core of transformation isn't about what you're doing. It's about who you're becoming. Once you start focusing on embodying your highest self, the unnecessary actions begin to fall away. But most of us were raised on a different story. Work hard, stay busy, never sit still. We were taught that constant hustle equals worthiness. So when you finally slow down, just sit quietly and relax. Guilt creeps in. That inner voice whispers, "You're not doing anything. You're falling behind unless you're always doing something." But in truth, our real essence shows up when we're simply being, when we live in peace and feel free within ourselves. When you ask myself, if I wanted abundance, love, and happiness, who would I be? Which version of me would naturally attract that? And if I were truly that version, would I still need to hustle nonstop? Or could I just sit still and trust? More often than not, when you connect to that state of being and tap into your intuition, the next step always shows up, naturally, effortlessly, as inspiration, not pressure. Imagine two scenarios. Scenario A, you're constantly doing, fighting every challenge, trying to make more money, trying to climb the ladder, trying to hit every goal as fast as possible. But all of it stems from one internal state: I'm still not enough. Scenario B, you pause, you sit quietly in stillness, and you ask yourself, if I wanted to earn $1 million a year, who would I be? You don't rush to act. You simply sit with that feeling. Live inside the assumption that it's already true. And when your inner state is aligned with that truth, one day, out of nowhere, an idea appears. Maybe it's starting a YouTube channel, maybe writing a book, or launching a project. But in that moment, action flows like a reflex, not forced, not manufactured, just inspired. Most people act out of fear of not having enough, fear of falling behind, fear of not being good enough. So the thought becomes, I don't have this yet, so I need to do something to compensate. But when action comes from lack, it feels heavy, stressful, and inefficient. Many people watching this might feel angry at this idea. They might say, no, you have to work hard. But what if action came from a place of already being enough? Everything becomes lighter, clearer. Ideas don't come from pressure, they come from inspiration. There's no force, only permission. For years, some have lived by this philosophy of being, not out of laziness, but because they want to move with clarity. And yes, sometimes the old programming comes back. That inner voice says, doing nothing is wrong. But instead of judging yourself, observe it and allow yourself to relax, to trust more. Because the core philosophy is simple. Do less, listen more, and act when something truly aligned begins to whisper. One thing to pay close attention to is the feeling of urgency, that constant pressure, that voice inside saying, hurry up, you're running out of time. But ask yourself, what is this rush, really? Why the need to hurry? The truth is, what's right for you will arrive at the right time. If you can simply relax and trust the natural flow of life, you'll begin to see that sometimes, yes, you'll need to course correct. Occasionally, you'll need to intervene. But knowing when to let go and when to step in, that's the art. And to master that, you must learn to trust your intuition and inner discernment. Because there will absolutely be moments when you do need to work hard, when it's time to act boldly and push forward. But the key difference is this: you're not acting out of fear. You're not scrambling because you feel behind. You're acting because your intuition says, now is the moment. move. Strong action can create powerful change, but only when it's rooted in clarity, not lack. So, as long as you stay conscious of your reasons, as long as your actions come from alignment, not anxiety, you'll find yourself moving with strength without losing your peace. If you were raised in an environment full of limitations, where small-minded thinking, doubt, and low vibrations dominated everything, then the fact that you're watching this video right now might just be your very first moment of awakening. And awakening isn't always some grand, dramatic event. Sometimes it's simply the quiet realization that the way I've been living might not be all there is. Awareness is the first step, and honestly, it's 80% of the transformation. Because when we have problems that we're unaware of, they keep running in the background, silently creating chaos, showing up as unwanted situations, and making us live reactively on autopilot. The psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But the moment you awaken, the moment you shine the light of awareness on those unconscious patterns, it stops being fate. It becomes something you can actually choose, something you can direct. That's why awareness is everything. Even if it arrives slowly or feels unsettling at first, that single moment of clarity is the moment you begin taking your power back. Once awareness sets in, the next step is making a clear and conscious intention. From this moment on, this has to change. Maybe you've been living in repeating patterns, conditioned by your environment to judge others, judge yourself, to believe that life has to be hard, that you're not good enough, that you have to hustle endlessly just to deserve anything. And you've been repeating those stories in your head for years. But the moment you declare a new intention, everything begins to shift. From this moment on, this has to change. I accept where I am, but it ends here. Intention is not just a thought, it's energetic. And when that energy is strong and clear, the universe starts to respond. Life begins to deliver the situations, the opportunities, and the people that act as bridges to take you forward. In quantum physics, this is called the observer effect. Whatever is observed begins to change. What we focus on, we begin to influence into existence. And in real life, it works the same way. When you begin to observe yourself through the lens of a powerful intention, you begin to reshape your entire trajectory. You stop living from old programming. You break free from the old habits, the patterns that kept you feeling like a victim, always battling invisible forces. And you say, "This can't go on like this. Something has to change." Then you commit. And from that moment, your path begins to change. But here's the next challenge. How do you stay aligned with your new vibration? Because let's be real, humans tend to slip back into the familiar. Old stories, old habits, old thought patterns that once ran your life like background music. They start playing again, quietly convincing you to return to who you used to be. So, what's the key? The key is making a clear decision and reminding yourself of that decision daily. One powerful and simple practice is this. Every morning when you wake up, ask yourself, what is my intention today? Who do I want to be today? Not, what do I want to do? Or, what do I want to have? Success is no longer measured by what you achieve or accumulate, but am I living as the person I truly want to become? Am I showing up as the highest version of myself? That becomes your new measure of success, because real success isn't about what you have or what you do. It's about who you're being while you do it. When each day begins with clear intention, you're no longer at the mercy of randomness. You're not being tossed around by circumstances. You're guiding reality instead of being guided by it. And that, right there, is how you maintain your new vibration. One day at a time. One conscious choice at a time. One aligned action at a time. There's a crucial factor in the journey of transformation that often gets overlooked. It's your environment, the people you spend time with, the relationships you surround yourself with. You might have set a powerful intention. You might have gained deep awareness. But if you're still surrounded by people who operate on an old frequency, people who constantly doubt, judge, or limit their thinking, you'll start getting pulled back. So what happens if you change the people around you? What if you intentionally build a new environment, one where people are living the way you want to live, doing the things you aspire to do? When you consistently place yourself in that kind of space, when you absorb the energy and mindset of people who've already stepped into that version of life, something incredible happens. You get pulled forward. You stop feeling alone. You stop feeling out of sync. Instead, a new belief settles in. This is possible. I just have to stay consistent and not give up. You can't fail if you don't quit. And the only reason most people quit is because they let the voices around them convince them they couldn't do it. On the path of transformation, voices will always show up, not just from the outside, but from deep within your own mind. These voices often come from the past, from family, from culture, from society, from well-meaning people who loved you, but who were speaking through limited beliefs they never questioned. Maybe you've heard things like, "No one pays for things like that. You have to work really hard to deserve anything. Stop dreaming. Be realistic." It's not necessarily malice, it's just an outdated operating system. Old programming passed down through generations. But if you truly want to live a different kind of life, one that feels aligned with your deepest desires, the first step is giving yourself permission to step off the beaten path. If you want to live an extraordinary life, one that resonates with the dreams in your heart, you have to allow yourself to experience it first. Then, surround yourself with people who are also living that truth. You need to upgrade your circle of influence, because when you do, you begin to reinforce a new frequency, a new direction for your life. And as you continue to reinforce it, day by day, you'll wake up one morning and realize, wow, I've actually done it. If you want to learn how to be instead of just doing and having, the core of it lies in shifting your state of being. When you change your identity and become the person you're truly meant to be, you naturally begin to create the life you've always dreamed of. Because being leads to doing, not the other way around. When you are aligned with who you need to become, the right actions will arise effortlessly. And when your actions flow from that elevated frequency, the results become inevitable. In the end, everything you desire isn't waiting at some faraway finish line. It begins right here with the version of you that you choose to embody along the journey. The world doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are.